Hello, hi. This is Gregory Muna, aka Master Moo, with this week's episode of our weekly podcast. Art is the Church of God the Creator, where we say it with a smile, but we say it because we mean it on some sense, in whatever sense. So, whether one is a theistically inclined religious person for whom the capital G word has an orthodox or dogmatic meaning, or whether you interpret that in a different way, or whether you conceptualize it differently, lowercase or with letters crossed out, or with the whole word crossed out. If you are purely a secular humanist or atheist, we can understand that in a sense of the emphatic register. By the emphatic register, I simply mean as an expression of personal importance, as an OMG, oh my God, okay, or surprise. So once again, everything worth stating can be stated and must be stated in secular terms. Let's repeat that. Everything worth stating can be stated in secular terms. And I also think the converse is true. You may disagree. I think everything worth stating can be stated in theological terms. So here we view the theological, we view the sacred and the secular as interchangeable, as a difference of register, as essentially a rhetorical difference. Haters, pour out the haterade, sop it off the floor. I mean, that's my viewpoint, and you may disagree. So, we're continuing with a short series on the look at the philosophy of expressed in the poetry of Walt Whitman, who is the father of American poetry. And we are looking at him, of course, as a poetic figure. I mean, he is the father of modern poetry. He's not the sole parent of modern poetry, because the mother of modern poetry is Emily Dickinson. All experimental poetry, all language poetry flows from Emily Dickinson. From Dickinson, of course, the experimental late Victorians, the experimental attitude towards language and sound, and Gerard Manley Hopkins, and Lewis Carroll. I do not know if there was actually any awareness. Probably Lewis Carroll was aware of Dickinson. Was Hopkins aware of Dickinson? He was well read, but I mean, she wasn't really published very much, was she? So let's call it a zeitgeist. But Dickinson is clearly a foremother of the experimental American language poetry of Gertrude Stein, who is and remains the mother of us all. And from Gertrude Stein, and of course her contemporary experimentalists, Joyce and so on, up through the present day, through all the language poets who taught me. But now we're looking at the father lineage of Walt Whitman, who is a continuation of the Romanticism, of Wordsworthian deism, and of course the transcendentalism of Emerson and Thoreau, the nature worship and the denial of biblical orthodoxy that's in Emerson. I mean, so much of Whitman, of course, is just a versification of Emerson's transcendentalist writings. Of course, Emerson was himself a fine poet, and an innovative poet, but not world-changingly innovative in the way that Whitman is and continues to be. And from Whitman, all confessional poetry, all beatnik poetry, all dub performance. He is the spoken word poet par excellence. And he is so from Whitman, we get Allen Ginsberg. From Whitman, we get Robert Lowell and Robert Lowell's students, such as the second wave feminist poets Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath, and of course, But Whitman is far more than that. He's far more than a poetic forebear. I mean, uniquely, he is the creator of a religion. Of course, I am a Bloomian. I follow sort of the teachings and precepts of Harold Bloom, with whom I had the joy of studying, and whose work I continue to study now that he is dead. In that Whitman is a strong poet, and by a strong poet we mean he is the creator of a religion. He profoundly rewrites the central Western civilizational narrative of our relationship to the classical world of Greco-Roman culture and to the Christian world, to the world of Christian theology in the English language world, transmitted primarily through the King James Bible and the Book of Common Prayer and the theological understandings that accrue to those. So we should understand Whitman's poetry not only as extraordinary achievement, world-shaking achievement of free versification, but we must view him also as a patriarch of a new religion, of a new American religion, and specifically the religion of the 1850s through the 1870s, abolition, Civil War, pre-Civil War, and post-Civil War. And so from abolitionism, Civil War, Reconstruction, I would say that this central 20-year period of his adulthood is everything. And that, of course, he lived until 1892, so he continued writing and revising his poetry all throughout the period of post-Reconstruction, through the 1880s, through the rise of the international workers' movement of socialism and the robber baron era, and into the sort of tragic nadir period of American race relations and the end of the 19th century. But he never abandoned his optimistic, idealistic vision, his religious vision, his secular, civic religion, his Emersonian religion and his nationalistic, patriotic religion of democracy, freedom, and equality, and the United States as the chosen country, as the vector to the whole world, to a cosmic vector of democracy, freedom, and equality. So his universalism, his humanitarian, secular, humanistic universalism is combined with intense nationalistic, 19th century nationalistic patriotism. But we're not going to be reading his patriotic poems, for example, his poems to Abraham Lincoln, My Captain, and today we're going to focus on Whitman's poems of sexuality in two specific clusters from the final 1891-92 final edition of Song of Myself. We're going to be looking at the cluster Children of Adam, and we're going to be looking at the cluster Calamus. And we're reading these two together because these two clusters are the nexus of what people have the greatest difficulty with, or have had the greatest difficulty with Whitman, his challenge to American Puritanism, his celebration of sexuality. And he organizes that around two principles, amativeness and adhesiveness. Those are the sort of the two abstract, sort of Platonic principles, or, or even pre-Platonic, even really pre-Socratic. And I mean, we're really, we're going back to Democritus and Heraclitus here in terms of, viewing these sexual polarities and gender and sexuality in terms of cosmic forces, right? The Children of Adam cluster poems are focus on his vision of heterosexual relationships between men and women, and from which he rewrites the book of Genesis as Milton did. So he's challenging, as Bloom might say, he's challenging the primacy here of Milton. Milton, who of course in Paradise Lost rewrote Genesis through the prism of Puritan theology and his direct experience in the English Civil War. Whitman is using his experience. He's making a parallel, actually a historical parallel, between Milton's direct experience of the English Civil War and his direct experience of the U.S. Civil War, to rewrite the book of Genesis in terms of Adam and Eve. So we don't have time to go deeply. Perhaps some other time we'll look into Milton's rewriting, or what Bloom might call his misprision of of Genesis, to Whitman's misprision or rewriting of Genesis. I mean, in some, I think, spoiler alert, I mean, Milton presents Adam and Eve as the archetypal married couple, and creates a new vision of marital love in which there is exclusive attachment, a monogamous relationship between husband and wife, and husband and wife form a spiritual union in the Puritan sense. And that's also why Milton propagandized in favor of divorce, if that spiritual union was not present. As far as Milton was concerned, the only legitimate marriage was one in which both the husband and wife not only shared mutual affection, but a shared spiritual vision. Milton, only indirectly identifies with Adam. It's questionable whether Milton identified more with probably God the Creator, obviously, since the vast creation, although everyone prefers the idea of Miltonic identification with Lucifer. I think that is a romantic misreading. However, Whitman was a romantic, and he shared the romantic transvaluation, you can say, of the the figure of Lucifer from Milton's Paradise Lost. And he positively identifies, certainly, with Lucifer in his larger work. But in this cluster, he identifies with Adam. So these poems are from, in some sense, the perspective of the biblical Adam, which now Whitman will absolve of original sin. So this cluster of poems is an examination of heterosexual sexuality with a focus on female sexuality, which admittedly Whitman, he had no direct experience of, so he's speaking of sort of in the abstract, but nevertheless he's a forceful advocate for women's equality. And of course his formation, his earlier youth during the 1840s was also the first wave feminism of Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Seneca Falstaff. So that's all in the background, the idea of women's equality, and of course the Declaration of the rights of women, Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley, those revolutionary period and romantic sort of proto-feminists are also very much on his mind, as well as the Louisa May, the great Margaret Fuller, the great female thinkers of the New England Transcendentalist movement, with whom he was allied. So as we read this, think of Whitman as Adam, and he's addressing an abstracted Eve, but an Adam and Eve who are absolved of the consequences of original sin sexually. So, and this is part of Whitman's larger theological repudiation of original sin altogether, which we can discuss, pro and con at the end. All right, but he is certainly devoting these poems to valorizing human sexuality and sacralizing it, and especially from female sexuality, which Whitman, in his limited way, conceptualizes in almost purely procreative terms. But he, glorifies human sexual reproduction and from the perspective of motherhood, and in a non-patriarchal way. So he glorifies motherhood, but not simply as the patriarchal woman as vessel of the future generations of male leaders. Okay. We'll look at his male perspectives later. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? First poem. And we may think of these as there is rhyme. These are not, some of these are sonnets, some of these are not sonnets. Many of them are organized in terms of quatrains and couplets and so on, right? So it's obvious that he is also, the direct intertext here is that this is Whitman's perhaps clumsy attempt at rewriting Shakespeare's sonnets, the procreation sonnets. So we should look at, like the first maybe 40 of the Shakespeare sonnets, the so-called procreation sonnets, because this is similar, but of course the context is different. He's not trying to convince a specific person to get married and have children. This is not pedagogical, but he's clarifying his theological perspective. And so the garden is the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, we have all of that. So, all right. First poem. To the garden, the world. To the garden, the world, and you descending, potent maids, daughters, sons, preluding, the love, the life, their bodies, meaning and being. Curious, here behold my resurrection after slumber. The revolving cycles and their wide sweep having brought me again, amorous, mature, all beautiful to me, all wondrous, my limbs and the quivering fire that ever placed through them for reasons most wondrous, existing, I peer and penetrate still. Content with the present, content with the past, by my side or back of me, Eve following, or in front, and I following her just the same. Okay, so he establishes his basic identification with Adam here. Okay, all right, poem 2, from Pent-Up Aching Rivers. From pent-up aching rivers, from that of myself, without which I were nothing, from what I am determined to make illustrious, even if I stand sole among men, from my own voice resonant, singing the phallus, singing the song of procreation, singing the need of superb children and therein superb grown people, singing the muscular urge and the blending, singing the bedfellow's song, oh, resistless yearning, oh, for any and each, the body correlative attracting. Oh, for you whoever you are, your correlative body. Oh, it, more than all else, you delighting. from the hungry gnaw that eats me night and day, from native moments, from bashful pain, singing them, seeking something yet unfound, though I have diligently sought it many a long year, singing the true song of the soul fitful at random, renascent with grossest nature or among animals, of that, of them, and what goes with them, my poems informing, of the smell of apples and lemons, of the pairing of birds, of the wet of woods, of the lapping of waves, of the mad pushes of waves upon the land, I them chanting the overture, lightly sounding the strain, anticipating the welcome nearness, the sight of the perfect body, the swimmer swimming naked in the bath or motionless on his back lying and floating, the female form approaching, I pensive, love flesh tremulous, aching, the divine list for myself or you or for any one making, the face, the limbs, the index from head to foot and what it arouses, the mystic deliria, the madness amorous, the utter abandonment. Hark close and still what I now whisper to you. I love you. Oh, you entirely possess me. Oh, that you and I escape from the rest and go utterly off, free and lawless, two hawks in the air, two fishes swimming in the sea, not more lawless than we, the furious storm through me careering, I passionately trembling, the oath of the inseparableness of two together, of the woman that loves me and whom I love more than my life, that oath swearing. Oh, I willingly stake all for you. Oh, let me be lost if it must be so. Oh, you and I. What is it to us? What the rest do or think? What is all else to us? Only that we enjoy each other and exhaust each other, if it must be so. From the master, the pilot, I yield the vessel to, the general commanding me, commanding all. From his permission taking, from time, the program hastening, I have loitered too long as it is. From sex, the warp, from the woof. From privacy, from frequent repinings alone, from plenty of persons near and yet the right person not near, from the soft sliding of hands over me and the thrusting of fingers through my hair and beard, from the long-sustained kiss upon the mouth or bosom, from the close pressure that makes me or any man drunk, fainting with excess, from what the divine husband knows, from the work of fatherhood, from exultation, victory, and relief, from the bedfellow's embrace in the night, from the act poems of eyes, hands, hips, and bosoms, from the cling of the trembling arm, from the bending curve and the clinch, from side by side the pliant coverlet off-throwing, from the one so unwilling to have me leave, and me just as unwilling to leave. Yet a moment, O tender waiter, I return, from the hour of shining stars and dropping dews, from the night a moment, I emerging, flitting out, celebrate you, act divine, and you, children prepared for, and you, stalwart loins. Okay, so from this, it's a geographical description of this, symbolic Garden of Eden. I think the key phrase is here when he says, "For my own voice resonant, singing the phallus." So this is a phallic song, right? And then when he speaks of the mystic deliria, so that's you can, even though it's a stretch to connect Whitman to the later symbolists or decadent poets, some of the language seems to forecast the language of the French symbolists. I mean, I definitely think of Baudelaire, although I don't think Baudelaire had any knowledge of. He probably was completely didn't know. I mean, Baudelaire, of course, loved Edgar Allan Poe, but of course, he predeceased Whitman. Yeah, and of course from Baudelaire then to Rimbaud and Mallarmé. But we're not talking about French symbolist poetry here. Okay, let's move on to the big poem of this, the atom cluster. I Sing the Body Electric. This is the longest poem in this sequence. But I think, we established clearly not only the pantheistic nature worship, but the centrality of his personal phallism And, it's definitely from a male perspective here, although he's trying to valorize the female. All right, so I sing the body electric. 1. I sing the body electric, the armies of those I love engirth me, and I engirth them. They will not let me off till I go with them, respond to them, and discorrupt them, and charge them full with the charge of the soul. Was it doubted that those who corrupt their own bodies conceal themselves? And if those who defile the living are as bad as they who defile the dead? And if the body does not do fully as much as the soul? And if the body were not the soul, what is the soul? Commentary here. The mention here of those who defile the living as bad as they who defile the dead, I think that's clearly a reference to his battlefield experience in the Civil War, and a historical reference to the archetypal, the root of hubris in the ancient and the archaic Greek world was the idea of the defilement of bodies on the battlefield, the disrespect toward the to the dead. Okay, and all right, part 2. The love of the body of man or woman balks account. The body itself balks account. That of the male is perfect, and that of the female is perfect. The expression of the face balks account, but the expression of a well-made man appears not only in his face, it in his limbs. It is in his limbs and joints also. It is curiously in the joints of his hips and wrist. It is in his walk, the carriage of his neck. The flex of his waist and knees. Dress does not hide him. The strong, sweet quality he has strikes through the cotton and broadcloth. You see him pass, conveys as much as the best poem, perhaps more. You linger to see his back, and the back of his neck and shoulder side, the sprawl and fullness of babes, the bosoms of heads of women, the folds of their dress, their style as we pass in the street, the contour of their shape downwards, the swimmer naked in the swimming bath, seen as he swims through the transparent green shine, or lies with his face up and rolls silently to and fro in the heave of the water. The bending forward and backward of rowers and rowboats, the horseman in his saddle, girls, mothers, housekeepers, and all their performances, the group of laborers seated at noontime with their open dinner kettles and their wives waiting, the female soothing a child, the farmer's daughter in the garden or cow yard, the young fellow hoeing corn, the sleigh driver driving his 6 horses through the crowd, the wrestle of wrestlers, 2 apprentice boys, quite grown, lusty, good-natured, native-born, out on the vacant lot at sundown after work, the coats and caps thrown down, the embrace of love and resistance, the upper hold and under hold, the hair rumpled over and blinding the eyes, the march of firemen in their own costumes, the play of masculine muscle through clean setting trousers and waist straps, the slow return from the fire, the pause when the bell strikes suddenly again, and the listening on the alert, the natural, perfect, varied attitudes, the head bent, the curved neck and the counting, such like I love. I loosen myself, pass freely, am at the mother's breast with little child, swim with the swimmers, wrestle with wrestlers, march in line with the firemen, and pause, listen, count. Okay, in this section of I Sing the Body Electric, I mean, clearly it's a contemplation, we can say frankly homoerotic appreciation of male beauty. The descriptions of female beauty are restrained and abstracted in comparison. Section 3, I knew a man, a common farmer, the father of 5 sons, and in them the fathers of sons, and in them the fathers of sons. The man was of wonderful vigor, calmness, beauty of person, the shape of his head, the pale yellow and white of his hair and beard, the immeasurable meaning of his black eyes, the richness and breadth of his manners. There I used to go and see him. He was wise also. He was 6 feet tall. He was over 80 years old. His sons were massive, clean, bearded, tan-faced, handsome. They and his daughters loved him. All who saw him loved him. They did not love him by allowance. They loved him with personal love. He drank water only. The blood showed like scarlet through the clear brown skin of his face. He was a frequent gunner and fisher. He sailed his boat himself. He had a fine one presented to him by a ship joiner. He had fowling pieces presented to him by men that loved him. When he went with his 5 sons and many grandsons to hunt or fish, you would pick him out as the most beautiful and vigorous of the gang. You would wish long and long to be with him. You would wish to sit by him in the boat that you and he might touch each other. Okay, in this third section of I Sing the Body Electric, this is a direct statement of a patriarchal sentiment, the vision of God the Father in that sense of the divine principle, sacralization of the adult, mature, philoprogenitive, son-siring male, the patriarch, the male the dominant male who produces dominant male sons, who then go on to produce dominant male grandsons, and so on. So the idea, the central figure of a dominant male dynasty, not elevated by wealth, he says a common farmer, but through his progenitivity. So this is a purely patriarchal vision, not a capitalist glorification of monetary status. But it is clearly essentialized as a patriarchal, we might call it patrolatry, sort of worship of the father principle. Patriolatry, I don't know, I'm creating a neologism here. But theologically, we're trying to extend Whitman to like a theological understanding. His phallic singing, as he says here, is related to his general worship of maleness, and maleness here is exalted as male fatherhood, fathering sons, fathering grandsons, and being the sort of central revered figure of that. 4, Sing the Body Electric 4. I have perceived that to be with those I like is enough. To stop in company with the rest at evening is enough. To be surrounded by beautiful, curious, breathing, laughing flesh is enough. To pass among them, or touch anyone, or rest my arm ever so lightly around his or her neck for a moment, what is this then? I do not ask any more delight. I swim in it as in a sea. There is something in staying close to men and women and looking on them, and the contact and odor of them, that pleases the soul well. All things please the soul, but these please the soul well. A commentary. A skeptical reader might point out that Whitman is equating social contact with all people, with men and women, as that he's smuggling contact with women in here to actually valorize his desire for physical affection with men. But let's get back to part 5. This is the female form. A divine nimbus exhales from it from head to foot. It attracts with fierce, undeniable attraction. I am drawn by its breath as if I were no more than a helpless vapor. All falls aside but myself and it, books, art, religion, time, the visible and solid earth, and what was expected of heaven or feared of hell are now consumed. Mad filaments, ungovernable shoots play out of it. The response likewise ungovernable. Hair, bosom, hips, bend of legs, negligent, falling hands, all diffused, mine too diffused. Ebb stung by the flow, and flow stung by the ebb, love flesh swelling and deliciously aching. Limitless limpid jets of love hot and enormous, quivering jelly of love, white blow in delirious juice. Bridegroom night of love working surely and softly into the prostrate dawn, undulating into the willing and yielding day, lost in the cleave of the clasping and sweet-fleshed day. This is the nucleus. After the child is born of woman, man is born of woman. This bath of birth, this merge of small and large, and the outlet again. Be not ashamed, women. Your privilege encloses the rest, and is the exit of the rest. You are the gates of the body, and you are the gates of the soul. The female contains all qualities and tempers them. She is in her place and moves with perfect balance. She is all things duly veiled. She is both passive and active. She is able to conceive daughters as well as sons, and sons as well as daughters. As I see my soul reflected in nature, as I see through a mist, one with inexpressible completeness, sanity, beauty, I see the bent head and arms folded over the breast. The female I see. Okay, so part 5 of I Sing the Body Electric is a invocation of the cosmic mother principle, the cosmic female, and we may say the mother of God, God the mother, Theotokos in Greek and in the Orthodox tradition, which is to say the cosmic reproductive adult female form, the matriarch, the mother who is the mother of daughters and so on, although he balances that with his overriding sort of patriarchal perspective of an interest in male sexuality. But we can, if we're looking at this theologically here, of course he's referring to Eve, but he's also referring to the second Eve, Mary, or the Virgin, or the Mother of God. So he's speaking of the God, the Mother, as a mother principle, as the cosmic mother principle, perceiving the ultimate cosmic intelligence as essentially reproductively female in nature. Yes. Okay. Part 6. The male is not less the soul nor more. He too is in his place. He too is all qualities. He is action and power. The flush of the known universe is in him. Scorn becomes him well, and appetite and defiance become him well. The wildest, largest passions, bliss that is utmost, sorrow that is utmost become him well. Pride is for him. The full spread pride of man is calming and excellent to the soul. Knowledge becomes him. He likes it always. He brings everything to the test of himself. Whatever the survey, whatever the sea, in the sail he strikes soundings at last only here. Where else does he strike soundings except here? The man's body is sacred, and the woman's body is sacred. No matter who it is sacred. Is it the meanest one in the laborer's gang? Is it one of the dull-faced immigrants just landed on the wharf? Each belongs here or anywhere just as much as the well-off, just as much as you. Each has his or her place in the procession. All is a procession. The universe is a procession with measured and perfect motion. Do you know so much yourself that you call the meanest ignorant? Do you suppose you have a right to a good sight, and he or she has no right to a sight? Do you think matter has cohered together from its diffuse float, and the soil is on the surface, and water runs, and vegetation sprouts? For you only, and not for him and her? Okay, here's Whitman. Part 6 is Whitman's clearest sort of theological statement of the sort of cosmic equality of male and female when he physicality. He says the man's body is sacred and the woman's body is sacred, and he joins that democratically, inclusively here in 1892 with upholding of the rights of immigrants and of the poor. When he says here, the meanest in the laborer's gang, the dull-faced immigrants just landed on the wharf, each belongs here or anywhere just as much as the well-off. So he balances that with a vision of social equality and democracy. For Whitman, the cosmic, the theological, the sexual are always joined with his civic religion of freedom, democracy, and equality, and specifically in the United States, and his patriotic nationalism of the United States. And part 7 is looking back to the 1850s, to the abolition movement, and the Whitman's support for the anti-slavery, for abolition, and his willingness to fight for it. Part 7, a man's body at auction, for before the war, I often go to the slave mart and watch the sale. I help the auctioneer. The sloven does not know his business. Gentlemen, look on this wonder. Whatever the bids of the bidders, they cannot be high enough for it. For it the globe lay preparing quintillions of years without one animal or plant. For it the revolving cycles truly and steadily rolled. In this head, the all-baffling brain. In it and below it, the making of heroes. Examine these limbs, red, black, or white. They are cunning in tendon and nerve. They shall be stripped that you may see them. Exquisite senses, life, lit eyes, pluck, volition, flakes of breast muscle, pliant backbone and neck, flesh not flabby, good size arms and legs, and wonders within there yet. Within there runs blood, the same old blood, the same red running blood. There swells in just a heart, there all passions, desires, reachings, aspirations. Do you think that they are not there because they are not expressed in parlors and lecture rooms? There is not only one man, this the father of those who shall be fathers in their turns. In him the start of populous states and rich republics, of him countless immortal lives with countless embodiments and enjoyments. How do you know who shall come from the offspring or of his offspring through the centuries? Who might find you have come from yourself if you could trace through the centuries? So he is implying here at this, he's of course valorizing the greatness and the humanity of the poor victim of the enslaved person here, but also implying the Darwinian argument that we all share common ancestry, that he's implying, of course, that whites and blacks are equal because of common ancestry, which is perfectly accepted, well, mostly accepted now, but except for the most severe races. But contextualizing that in the 1850s, 1860s would have been highly controversial, as is his statement of the complete equality and even superiority of women. Okay, 8. A woman's body at auction, she too is not only herself, she is the teeming mother of mothers. She is the bearer of them that shall grow and be mates to the mothers. Have you ever loved the body of a woman? Have you ever loved the body of a man? Do you not see that these are exactly the same to all in all nations and times all over the earth? If anything is sacred, the human body is sacred, and the glory and sweet of a man is the token of manhood untainted. And in man or woman, a clean, strong, firm-fibered body is more beautiful than the most beautiful face. Have you seen the fool that corrupted his own live body, or the fool that corrupted her own live body? For they do not conceal themselves, and cannot conceal themselves. Okay, in section 8 here, when he says, have you ever loved the body of a woman? Have you ever loved the body of a man? You can say that he's smuggling his own homosexuality into an affirmation of heterosexuality through a kind of bisexual inclusiveness. Section 9. But it's the complementary poem, in terms of the denunciation of slavery and the equality, the affirmation of universal freedom and equality. 9. O my body, I dare not desert the likes of you and other men and women, nor the likes of the parts of you. I believe the likes of you are to stand or fall with the likes of the soul, and that they are the soul. I believe the likes of you shall stand or fall with my poems, and that they are my poems. Man's, woman's, child's, youth's, wife's, husband's, father's, young man's, the young women's poems. Head, neck, hair, ears, drop and tympan of the ears, eyes, eye fringes, iris of the eye, eyebrows, and the waking or sleeping of the lids. Mouth, tongue, lips, teeth, roof of the mouth, jaws and the jaw hinges, nose, nostrils of the nose and the partition, cheeks, temples, forehead, chin, throat, back of the neck, neck sleeve, strong shoulders, manly beard, scapula, hind shoulders, and the ample side round of the chest, upper arm, armpit, elbow socket, lower arm, arm sinews, arm bones, wrist and wrist joints, hand, palm, knuckles, finger, forefinger, finger joints, fingernails, broad breast front, curling hair of the breast, breastbone, breast side, ribs, belly, backbone, joints of the backbone, hips, hip sockets, hip strength, inward and outward, man, balls, man, root, strong set of thighs, well carrying the trunk above, leg fibers, knee, knee pan, upper leg, under heel, angles, instep, football, toes, toe joints and the heel, all attitudes, all the shape lines, all the beginnings of my or your body or of anyone's body, male or female, the lungs, sponges, the stomach sac, the bowels sweet and clean, the brain in its folds inside the skull frame, sympathies, heart valves, palate valves, sexuality, maternity, womanhood, and all that is a woman, and the man that comes from woman, the womb, the teats, nipples, breast milk, tears, laughing, weeping, love looks, love perturbations and risings, the voice articulation, language, whispering, shouting aloud, food, drink, pulse, digestion, sweat, sleep, walking, swimming, poise on the hips, leaping, reclining, embracing, arm curving and tightening, the continual changes of the flex of the mouth and around the eyes, the skin, the sunburned shade, freckles, hair, the curious sympathy one feels when feeling with the hand, the naked meat of the body, the circling rivers, the breath, the breathing it in and out, the beauty of the waist, and thence of the hips, and thence downward toward the knees, the thin red jellies within you or within me, the bones and the marrow in the bones, the exquisite realization of health. I say, these are not the parts and poems of the body only, but of the soul. I say now, these are the soul. Okay, so in this litany of body parts, he is stating a profound materialist philosophy, that there is no distinction between the physical and the mental, or between the body and the soul, perhaps in theological or 19th century terms. And this is both theologically and sexually one of the most controversial points of Whitman's 19th century poetry. I mean, in other words, his equal valorization of the male and female body, and it's certainly still challenging when he valorizes here the man balls and the man root, for example, when he talks about the male and female sexual organs, man balls, man root, and so on, right? And as well as the description of semen, that can still make people very uncomfortable, but this was what was most controversial in the 19th century, Whitman's descriptions of male and female bodies and male and female sexuality. Okay. Next poem. A woman waits for me. A woman waits for me. She contains all. Nothing is lacking. Yet all were lacking if sex were lacking, or if the moisture of the right man were lacking. Sex contains all, bodies, souls, meanings, proofs, purities, delicacies, results, promulgation, songs, commands, health, pride, the maternal mystery, the seminal milk, all hopes, benefactions, bestowals, all the passions, loves, beauties, delights of the earth, all the governments, judges, gods, followed persons of the earth. These are contained in sex as parts of itself and justifications of itself. Without shame, the man I like knows and avows the deliciousness of his sex. Without shame, the woman I know and avows hers. Now I will dismiss myself from impassive women. I will go stay with her who waits for me, and with those women who are warm-blooded and sufficient for me. I see that they understand me and do not deny me. I see that they are unworthy of me. I will be the robust husband of those women. They are not one jot less than I am. They are tanned in the face by shining suns and blowing winds. Their flesh has the old divine suppleness and strength. They know how to swim, row, hide, wrestle, shoot, run, and strike, retreat, advance, resist, defend themselves. They are ultimate in their own right. They are clear, calm, well-possessed of themselves. I draw you close to me, you women. I cannot let you go. I would do you good. I am for you, and you are for me, not only for our own sake, but for others' sakes. Enveloped in you sleep greater than heroes and bards. They refuse to awake at the touch of any man but me. It is I, you women, I make my way. I am stern, acrid, large, undissuadable, but I love you. I do not hurt you any more than is necessary for you. I pour the stuff to start sons and daughters fit for these states. I press with slow, rude muscle. I brace myself effectually. I listen to no entreaties. I dare not withdraw till I deposit what has so long accumulated within me. Through you I drain the pent-up rivers of myself. In you I wrap 1,000 onward years. On you I graft the grafts of the best beloved of me in America. The drops I distill upon you shall grow fierce and athletic girls, new artists, musicians, and singers. The babes I get upon you are to beget babes in their turn. I shall demand perfect men and women out of my love spendings. I shall expect them to interpenetrate with others as you and I interpenetrate now. I shall count on the fruits of the gushing showers of them as I count on the fruits of the gushing showers I give now. I shall look for the loving crops from birth, life, death, immortality. I plant so lovingly now. Okay, so this is his most explicitly heterosexual poem. This is Whitman's, you can say borderline pornographic description of heterosexual intercourse, the reproductive act, and he's obviously drawing on his own sexual experience in the abstracted sense, but it's within the context clearly of procreation, of producing, future generations. There's not any real sense within Whitman of heterosexual sex and a recreational sex for sex sake. It's always subordinated to the creation of sons and daughters of these states, capital S for the United States. Let's continue the next poem in the Children of Adam cluster, Spontaneous Me. Spontaneous me, nature, the loving day, the mounting sun, the friend I am happy with, the arm of my friend hanging idly over my shoulder, the hillside whitened with blossoms of the mountain ash. The same late in autumn, the hues of red, yellow, drab, purple, light and dark green, the rich coverlet of the grass, animals and birds, the private untrimmed bank, the primitive apple, the pebble stones, beautiful dripping fragments, the negligent list of one after another as I happen to call them to me or think of them, the real poems, what we call poems being merely pictured, the poems of the privacy of the night of men like me, this poem drooping shy and unseen that I always carry and that all men carry. No once for all, avowed on purpose, wherever there are men like me, are our lusty, lurking, masculine poems, love thoughts, love juice, love odor, love yielding, love climbers, and the climbing sap, arms and hands of love, lips of love, phallic thumb of love, breasts of love, bellies pressed and glued together with love, earth of chaste love, life that is only life after love, the body of my love, the body of the woman I love, the body of the man, the body of the earth, soft forenoon airs that blow from the southwest, the hairy wild bee that murmurs and hankers up and down, that gripes the full-grown lady flower, curves upon her with amorous firm legs, takes his will of her, and holds himself tremulous and tight till she is satisfied. The wet of woods through the early hours, two sleepers at night, lying close together as they sleep, one with an arm slanting down across and below the waist of the other. The smell of apples, aromas from crushed sage plant, mint, birch bark, the boy's longings, the glow and pressure as he confides to me what he was dreaming, the dead leaf whirling its spiral whirl and falling still and content to the ground. The no-form stings that sights, people, objects sting me with, the hubbed sting of myself stinging me as much as it ever can any one, the sensitive orbic underlapped brothers that only privileged feelers may be intimate where they are, the curious roamer, the hand roaming all over the body, the bashful withdrawing of flesh where the fingers soothingly pause and edge themselves, the limpid liquid within the young man, the vexed corrosion so pensive and so painful, the torment, the irritable tide that will not be addressed, the like of the same I feel, the like of the same in others, the young man that flushes and flushes, and the young woman that flushes and flushes, the young man that wakes deep at night, the hot hand seeking to repress what would master him, the mystic amorous night, the strange half-welcome pangs, vision sweats, the pulse pounding through palms and trembling encircling fingers, the young man all colored red, ashamed, angry, the souse upon me of my lover, the sea as I lie willingly and naked, the merriment of the twin babes that crawl over the grass, and the sun, the mother never turning her vigilant eyes from them, the walnut trunk, the walnut husk, and the ripening or ripened long round walnuts, the continents of vegetables, birds, animals, the consequent meanness of me should I skulk or find myself indecent, while birds and animals never once skulk or find themselves indecent, the great chastity of paternity to match the great chastity of maternity, the oath of procreation I have sworn, my Adamic and fresh daughters, the greed that eats me day and night with hungry gnaw till I saturate what shall produce boys and fill my place when I am through, the wholesome relief, repose, content, and this bunch plucked at random from myself, it has done its work. I cross it carelessly to fall where it may. And commentary, Whitman is going to the most ancient idea of poetry as poesis, as creation itself. So he is saying that his poems are not decorative poems, are not arrangements of words on paper, but his poems are identical with the creation of the God, the Creator. So he's identifying himself not here with God the Mother or God the Father, but with God the Creator as the ultimate poet. You know. And in his 1855 preface, he said the greatest poem is the United States of America. Here he's defining poetry in terms of creation through sexual reproduction. Next poem of the Children of Adam, 1 hour to madness and joy. 1 hour to madness and joy, O furious, O confine me not. What is this that frees me so in storms? What do my shouts amid lightnings and raging winds mean? Oh, to drink the mystic deliria deeper than any other man, O savage and tender achings. I bequeath them to you, my children. I tell them to you for reasons, O bridegroom and bride. Oh, to be yielded to you, whoever you are, and you to be yielded to me in defiance of the world. Oh, to return to paradise, O bashful and feminine. Oh, to draw you to me, to plant on you for the first time the lips of a determined man. Oh, the puzzle, the thrice-tied knot, the deep and dark pool, all untied and illumined. Oh, to speed where there is space enough for air enough at last, to be absolved from precious ties and conventions, I from mine and you from yours, to find a new unthought of nonchalance with the best of nature, to have the gag removed from one's mouth, to have the feelings today or any day I am sufficient as I am. Oh, something unproved, something in a trance, to escape utterly from others' anchors and holds, to drive free, to love free, to dash reckless and dangerous, to court destruction with taunts, with invitations, to ascend, to leap to the heavens of the love indicated to me, to rise thither with my inebriate soul, to be lost if it must be so, to feed the remainder of life with 1 hour of fullness and freedom, with 1 brief hour of madness and joy. Well, commentary. I think this is Whitman at his most Wagnerian. It reminds me of Wagner's libretto to Tristan and Isolde and its short lines, its exclamation, its use of... And the combination of the exclamations and the intensifiers, the O, requires these shorter lines because when reading Whitman, it was my instruction from my teacher, from Alan, to always take a breath for each line, to say each line completely in one breath, and to not to take another in breath, to read it straight through, so that from Alan's perspective, your breath and the words are unified. If you give one breath per line of reading, and that also that Whitman must be read aloud, and that his words do not work on the page. This is why this is a read along. So you're reading along with me, and you're posting your comments, and we're having a live discussion. But as we read along, take an in breath before each line, and when there is a stanza break, take an extra large breath. So take a small breath before each line and take an extra long breath at every stanza break, and that's how Whitman determines his line lengths and his stanzification, his lineation and his stanzification. Okay, next poem, Out of the Rolling Ocean, the Crowd. So let's practice that breathing and recitation. Out of the rolling ocean, the crowd came a drop gently to me, whispering, I love you before long I die. I have traveled a long way merely to look on you, to touch you, for I could not die till once looked on you, for fear I might afterward lose you. Now we have met, we have looked, we are safe. Return in peace to the ocean, my love. I too am a part of that ocean, my love. We are not so much separated. Behold the great rondure, the cohesion of all, how perfect. But as for me, for you, the irresistible sea is to separate us. As for an hour carrying us diverse, you cannot carry us diverse forever. Be not impatient, a little space. Know you, I salute the air, the ocean, and the land, every day at sundown, for your dear sake, my love. Okay, next poem. Ages and ages returning at intervals. Ages and ages returning at intervals, undestroyed, wandering, immortal, lusty, phallic, with the potent original loins, perfectly sweet, I, chanter of Adamic songs, through the new garden, the west, the great cities calling, deliriate, thus prelude what is generated, offering these, offering myself, bathing my songs in sex, offspring of my loins. So, once again, mystic deliria, phallic songs, he's sort of, organizing the whole cluster through these repeated words, through these sort of anaphora and these refrains, and he's identifying obviously with Adam and the new garden of the West. What does he mean? I mean, obviously means Western civilization, but he also means the westward movement. He means manifest destiny, the movement from the Atlantic to the Pacific and American. So he's the West. He's speaking not only of Western civilization, but he's speaking of the Western movement, of the 19th century Americanism. Notice that these poems now are less specifically gendered and are either gender neutral or implicitly homoerotic, or at least autoerotic from a male perspective. Next poem, We Two, How Long We Were Fooled. We two, how long we were fooled, now transmuted we swiftly escape as nature escapes. We are nature, long have we been absent, but now we return, we become plants, trunks, foliage, roots, bark. We are bedded in the ground, we are rocks, we are oaks, we grow in the opening side by side. We browse, we are two among the wild herd, spontaneous as any. We are two fishes swimming in the sea together. We are what locust blossoms are, we drop scent around lanes, morning and evenings. We are also the coarse smut of beasts, vegetables, and minerals. We are two predatory hawks. We soar above and look down. We are two resplendent suns. We it is who balance ourselves orbic and stellar. We are as two comets. We prowl fanged and four-footed in the woods. We spring on prey. We are two clouds, forenoons and afternoons driving overhead. We are seas mingling. We are two of those cheerful waves rolling over each other and interwetting each other. We are what the atmosphere is, transparent, receptive, pervious, impervious. We are snow, rain, cold, darkness. We are each product and influence of the globe. We have circled and circled till we have arrived home again. We too, we have voided all but freedom and all but our own joy. This is another non-gender specific poem, love poem. Yeah. So, he's building on Carpe Diem poetry and romantic love poetry and moving it, sort of in this borderline between the lyric and the erotic. Okay, our next poem, O Hymen, O Hymene, O Hymen, O Hymene, why do you tantalize me thus? O why sting me for a swift moment only? Why can you not continue? O why do you now cease? Is it because you continued beyond the swift moment? You would certainly kill me. So, commentary. This very short poem, really only 4 lines, is a marital poem. O Hymen, Hymen, it's the wedding night, right? So hymn to the wedding night and to the end of virginity and the beginning of procreation. And okay, I mean, again, Whitman is using his imagination. He's imagining what it would have been like to have had sexual attraction and union and reproduction with a woman. So it's sort of by perforce a limited vision. Okay. His next poem, also very brief, miniature. I am he that aches with love. I am he that aches with amorous love. Does the earth gravitate? Does not all matter aching attract all matter? So the body of me to all I meet or know. Commentary. 3-line poem, very radical. I mean, I doubt that Whitman had any awareness of 3-line poems such as haiku, and this is not haiku-like because it's not a snapshot of nature sort of infused with psychological insight, humor, or emotion, but it's more of an aphorism. I think that might be it. But still, it's very, very interesting that Whitman is forcing himself to work on the microscopic as well as the macroscopic scales of poetry here. Okay, next poem, actually my favorite in the Children of Adam cluster, but arguably incorrectly placed. Okay. Native moments. Native moments, when you come upon me, you are here now. Give me now libidinous joys only. Give me the drench of my passions. Give me life, coarse and rank. Today I go consort with nature's darlings. Tonight, too, I am for those who believe in loose delights. I share the midnight orgies of young men. I dance with the dancers and drink with the drinkers. The echoes ring with our indecent calls. I pick out some low person for my dearest friend. He shall be lawless, rude, illiterate. He shall be one condemned by others for deeds done. I will play a part no longer. Why should I exile myself from my companions? O you shunned persons, I at least do not shun you. I come forthwith in your midst. I will be your poet. I will be more to you than any of the rest. Well, I mean, it's that I think arguably we could say that this probably belongs in the Calamus cluster rather than the Children of Adam cluster, because this really does not. This is clearly not even a poem of adhesiveness, but this is a straight up glorification of anonymous homosexual sex, obviously. All right. So take that or leave it, but there it is in Whitman's cluster, and one of his greatest lyric expressions. Okay, next poem in Children of Adam. Once I passed through a populous city. Once I passed through a populous city, imprinting my brain for future use with its shows, architecture, customs, traditions. Yet now of all that city I remember only a woman I casually met, who there detained me for love of me. Day by day and night by night we were together, all else has long been forgotten by me. I remember, I say, only that woman who passionately clung to me. Again we wander, we love, we separate again. Again she holds me by the hand, I must not go. I see her close beside me with silent lips sad and tremulous. Next poem, that was a short poem. I heard you solemn sweet pipes of the organ. I heard you solemn sweet pipes of the organ last Sunday morn. I passed the church, winds of autumn as I walked the woods. At dusk I heard your long stretched sighs. up above the mournful. I heard the perfect Italian tenor singing at the opera. I heard the soprano in the midst of the quartet singing. Heart of my love, you too I heard murmuring low through one of the wrists around my head. Heard the pulse of you when all was still ringing little bells last night under my ear. A beautiful lyrical musical poem, suitable for musical setting, common to self as composer, and perfect for a Sunday morning, which is right now. It is now currently Sunday morning, November 16th, 11:14 a.m. As we are having our read along, as you are reading along with me, practicing yogic breathing with vowels and consonants of the sounds and the words of Whitman's Children of Adam from his 1892 final edition of Leaves of Grass. And, okay, we're getting towards the end. Facing west from California's shores. Facing west from California's shores, inquiring, tireless, seeking what is yet unfound, I, a child, very old, over waves, toward the house of maternity, the land of migrations, look afar, look off the shores of my western sea, the circle, almost circled, or starting westward from Hindustan, from the vales of Kashmir, from Asia, from the north, from God, the sage, and the hero, from the south, from the flowery peninsulas and the Spice Islands, long having wandered since, round the earth having wandered, now I face home again, very pleased and joyous. But where is what I started for so long ago, and why is it yet unfound? Again, you might argue that this doesn't really belong in Children of Adam because this is really an expression of westward ho, manifest destiny, American Pacific imperialism, and so on. All right, let's move on. As Adam early in the morning. And here we're coming to the end of the Children of Adam. As Adam early in the morning, walking forth from the bower refreshed with sleep, behold me where I pass. Hear my voice approach. Touch me. Touch the palm of your hand to my body as I pass. Be not afraid of my body. Okay. So I think actually we're going to roll on. I don't think we're going to move on to Calamus today because I think there's enough theological and philosophical content in the Children of Adam. He's rewriting the book of Genesis to absolve Adam and Eve of original sin. He's identifying with Adam, and he's saying that original sin is not sexual, does not reside with Adam and Eve, but with the children of Adam. That sin enters the world the fall takes place later. I definitely agree with his interpretation of sacred sexuality in the book of Genesis. Adam and Eve were one flesh and they had no shame. It's only when they eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil that they become aware of duality, and they conceptually separate themselves into male and female, and that is represented by the covering of the genitalia with fig leaves, right? What I disagree with, and what I totally reject, is Whitman's disavowal of original sin. Original sin is real. Original sin is hubris. Original sin is the inborn tendency of every human being to separate themselves dualistically with the ego concept, and to give privilege to the ego concept, and to use the ego concept as an excuse to perpetrate hamartia, injustice against others. And so as long as that there is that reflexive ego concept, and however that manifests, there will be hubris, there will be hamartia, and there will ultimately be nemesis and catastrophe. There will be downfall, and ultimately there will be damnation. So unless human beings devote themselves completely, unless I and you and everyone else devote ourselves completely to undermining and deactivating our hubris, our reflexive ego concept, our dualistic concept of self and other, then we will inevitably fall prey to from sin to hamartia, to evil, and from evil to nemesis and downfall. To contextualize that in the terminology of classical Greek vision. Okay, so But there is the path to eudaimonia, there is the path to blessedness, to salvation, to optimal happiness, and that is the union of arete and gnosis, the realization of our unique set of inborn skills and gifts. This is our arete, and gnosis, listening to our inner voice of wisdom that teaches us to persist in the development of these gifts for the benefit of all humanity. So, we can accept parts of Whitman, we can acknowledge him, we can also reject other parts. I think we're going to look at his Calamus poems. So these were the Children of Adam poems. These are the poems of amativeness, the sort of his sacred vision of women, of female sexuality, and of heterosexuality. Next time we'll look at Whitman's Calamus poems, his poems of adhesiveness, his views of masculinity, of gender of essential maleness, and of his expressions of his homosociality and his homoeroticism, and how he understood that in relation to democracy and his theological concept. Okay, I think that'll be all for today. So this is Greg Muna signing off, wishing you a great week, and this has been Art is the Church of God the Creator. Greg Muna, Master Mu, speaking to you on Sunday morning, November 16th, 2025.